Hey there, I am making some Hello. So I'm going to make quick arrangements. It's going to be a restorative class day. If you want to go to a different video, this one is going to be centered around using a wall as a prop. So I've moved a little closer to my little half wall. I'm going to make some movements, like moving some more of my husband's computer stuff out of the way. You'll get more of a view of some of the more nerdy art in my house. So for today's class, you're going to need some wall or a lot of wall. You can also sub out and use a couch off to the right. Similar purposes. A table is not nearly as comfortable. This is also something you can use like in a bed if you have a decent headboard that's pretty flush to the wall. I probably wouldn't suggest it if you have like a sleigh bed. Overall wall, I'm going to reach over and grab my yoga blocks real quick. So you can grab whatever you need. Some of my bottles out of the way. I would suggest a block or a bolster, the typical things that you would use for a more restorative session. If you want some music, there's some music on. 90% of our more restorative and our postures that we will hold for a good chunk of time, meaning more than a 10 breath count, leaning closer to that minute, 2 minute. And if you want longer, up to about a 5 minute mark. I will not be holding those poses for 5 minutes as I teach, just for the simple fact that it would take up too much time. If you want to hold a posture for longer than a minute and a half, ideally, I'm going to be hitting a lot of these poses. You are more than welcome to do so. You don't need to hold them as long. You can always back out and make an adjustment, maybe go back to a pose that we had already hit in one of the previous classes, in the previous session, or something you like from a previous class. I'm going to use a good chunk of it to help open up the shoulders, the back. More, this is going to help with some release in the hips, as well as a few ideas of how to use the wall to help stretch out your upper back, something that can help transition like day to day, meaning if your shoulders are really tight, ways that you could use, say, your countertop. This is why I'm using my half wall. It can help simulate a countertop. But anything to just kind of use props to help open up everything. So give me one moment. I'm going to reach off to the side. Boop. And boop. So coming here, again, starting in a comfortable seat, how we typically would start any of our sessions, putting your hips on a block, crossing your legs. You can go for a half lotus if that's comfortable for you. Your legs can be outstretched in front of you. Again, it is a position of making yourself comfortable. Also, it is the first place that as we breathe and think about, hopefully not the dinner I just had, think about processing the day. Probably going to have a dog running up here in any moment. If you would like, you can always bring your back to a wall just to help offer a little bit of support here. So get yourself situated, get your props nearby, and focus on your breathing, starting to dial back whatever's going on through your head. Using that similar analogy, because I really liked it, from Wednesday's class where I discussed thinking about using a mantra or a word or counting as a focus for your practice. So when you take a picture, you want what's in focus to be and take up most of your frame. Other stuff may be going on in the background. Hi. Others may be going on in the background, like just that happened. And it's a dog. Of course, I'm going to stop, and don't be surprised if in everyday conversation I would yell puppy very loudly. But you want your focus to be that word, your counting, your mantra for the day. I've discussed different ways of explaining and going through of like what a mantra can be for you. It can be an intention you're trying to set for yourself, a word that is particularly poignant for yourself, something you're trying to cultivate within yourself, you can stop killing the fluffy thing, Willow. Or if you're somebody who doesn't like chanting, maybe counting is the way you go for the day. That's all good. Regardless what it is, take your fidgets, shake your neck out. I just popped my neck doing that. It felt really good. You can rest your hands wherever it's comfortable. Lap, knees, by your side, palms up, palms down. Interlace your fingers. Whatever feels more comfortable for you. Let's take a nice deep inhale. Lift up through the chest, and on your exhale, relax your shoulders down. Give yourself a little wiggle. Big inhale through your nose, exhale, sigh it out through your mouth. Allow yourself to settle a little bit more and a little more deeply into your practice. Continuing to breathe here. On your inhale, just a nice big lift up. You're going to have some chaos in the background. And on your exhale, we're going to twist.
Can I join?
You are welcome to join, Steph. I'm going to be using the wall for a lot of stuff today.
Okay.
So I'm scooching out of light.
Oh, my foot.
This is also why laughter tends to be such a focus, because it's just something that naturally happens. So on your inhales, you want to get big and tall, just lifting up through that chest, exhaling, twisting a little bit deeper. That right hand planting gently behind you. We're not yanking yourself into any position. We're just resting. You can back out of the twist a little. Get a nice big inhale. On your exhale, twist a little deeper. On your next inhale, we're going to untwist. Big reach up. Give yourself that little rib shimmy if that feels good. And on your exhale, where there's a wall right here, we're going to twist in that opposite direction. So allowing that right hand to come down to that outer of your left thigh. Left hand coming behind you. Gaze is wherever it's comfortable. I'm going to start backing out of the posture so I can give Stephen a little bit more room, but also to kind of use him as like my narration point. So the twist, we're just trying to help get a little bit of movement into your mid-back. Hey, laughter's a thing, guys. She has found the last remainders of a toy and is proceeding to make sure it is completely gone.
It's our life. Our dog.
Very nice. 2 to 3 more breaths in this nice deep twist. Again, we're just trying to get a little bit of movement into that mid-back. And we're going to move into tabletop. So when you inhale, untwist, give yourself that wiggle, move into tabletop. Knees coming underneath your hip sockets, wrists under elbows, under shoulders. And move through cat and cow here. So allowing that belly to drop down, gaze come up, or Stephen's going to go in that opposite direction, starting in cat. So on the cow, you want to get a nice big abdominal stretch. On your cat, pushing the ground away from you, curling that spine in, gaze coming towards your belly button. On that exhale, getting a nice big stretch in that upper back and moving with breath here. Going through this at least 10 times. If you want more, you take more. After that 10th time, start throwing in some additional movements, shoulder circles, hip circles, rib circles. That is margarita. It's just, again, I know most of us have been spending time at a desk in, again, non-ergonomic situations. So either uncomfortably on a couch or at kitchen table. So your backs might be a little tighter than normal. So if you were just getting back into coming to the gym, yay. So hopefully you should see some of you guys on Sunday. Maybe you're a little tighter than you typically are. So after you go through cat and cow again, you are welcome to throw in any additional movements. It's just going to help wake you up a little bit, going into the hips, into the shoulders, making circles. You do a big side body stretch by pushing hips and shoulders in one direction, pushing the ribs in the opposite. And we're going to go thread the needle. So moving through the tabletop position, we're going to go thread the needle on the right side. If you want to go left first, you can go left first. Right arm's going to lift up nice and tall, thread behind that left wrist. Stefan's going left side.
There's a wall right there.
Yeah, and?
Probably hit with my hand.
You wouldn't. So, whatever hand is planted on the ground, if you want a deeper stretch, you can reach it long across the floor. So staying along the floor, reaching it towards the front of the room or towards the camera. Or you can wrap it around your low back for a little bit of a deeper twist. Just a way to switch up this posture to give you a different variation of what you need. And you can play with both, determine which one feels better, and that's the one you hold on to. There's nothing here that says you can't change your mind. Heck, you could change your mind right now and just watch us and, I don't know, drink a glass of wine, hoping for the dog to make another cameo, because the dog is way more interesting than we are. 3 to 4 more good deep breaths here. If at any point you notice that you're holding tension in your jaw, a little trick that I like to do is I just do a big sigh. Or you yawn. And when you're ready to break that posture, you can drive through. In Stefan's case, it's the right hand or your left hand. Untwist, replant, twist in that opposite direction. Feet.
Like, boom, and stop.
Give yourself a good 3 to 4 breaths to notice this posture, meaning notice how you're feeling in it, notice how you're breathing in it, see what's feeling tighter. And as you continue to breathe through this posture, sinking a little deeper, making any tweaks or adjustments to make it work for your body. So with that in mind, if you need to reach your arm long across the floor, going for that deeper stretch, or wrapping it across your low back to go for a deeper twist, do it. This can also help introduce a nice bit of stretching in the shoulders. We're going to do quite a bit with the shoulders to start before we essentially almost move exclusively towards the lower body, just for the sake of not having to do a lot of up and down movements and allowing you to really sink into different postures. You need a little bit longer here. Take a little bit longer. I'm going to suggest holding for another 3 to 4 breaths. If you want more than that, you take more than that. But you can also use that 3 to 4 breath count to start backing out of the posture. So if you reach your arm long across the mat, you're sliding it back in underneath your shoulder and preparing to untwist out of the posture. Very nice. Back in tabletop. This is going to lead us into puppy dog pose. So if you have a dog or a cat, you've seen this stretch. Hands will walk out in front of you. Hips stay nice and lifted. Chest sinks down to the mat. Head starts to relax. So this is going to give you a big stretch in that upper back. Are you getting a good stretch here?
Uh-huh.
If you need a deeper stretch, you can press through the base of your knuckles to push your chest more back towards your thighs as a way to just kind of open you up a little more. If you don't want to effort in the posture, because you don't have to, Think about big inhale, and on your exhale, just allowing gravity to pull you deeper into your practice. Or maybe you have a kid that's maybe wanting to jump around. You can have them help. Have them gently press on the center of your back. Now, I'm not doing a lot of pressure here. Stefan, am I pressing really hard?
No.
It is the type of pressure where it's just like, okay, it's a little deeper. It's just helping me stay a little deeper. I'm not forcing anything here, just gentle pressure. Walk your hands to the right, push your rib cage to the left. We're going to introduce that side body stretch. I will move out of your way. So again, this posture is whatever you need to make it. So if you need a deeper stretch, think about pressing through the base of your knuckles to open up into that side body. Might be getting sensation here can travel anywhere from elbow into your armpit, down your side, even into your low back. A lot of it depends on where you're tightest. Whenever I hold this posture, I tend to get a lot of lat and armpit, but that's also where I tend to be a little bit tighter is in my lats. 3 more good solid breaths here. If you want more time, you take more time. I just use breath count as a way to gauge how long you're in a posture. And when you're ready, switch directions. Hands walk through the midline, hands walk to the left, rib cage pushes to the right. So again, similar to the other postures where give yourself a few breaths to settle, figure it out, notice what feels good, notice how the posture feels, and as you need a deeper stretch, as you need a little bit more, give yourself a little bit more. If you don't need any, don't take it. A few more breaths here. We're going to stay on the floor here a little bit longer, not a whole lot, and transition slightly, and then we're going to go almost exclusively to using the wall. When you're ready to break the posture, take a couple more breaths as you need it. Hands will walk through to the midline, using puppy dog as a transition to get into down dog. So hands move into tabletop, toes curl under, hips lift, chest presses back. Very nice. Bend your knees as much as you need to make this posture a little more accessible on your hamstrings. If you're on carpet like Stefan is, there's a high probability you're going to slide. It happens. It's all good. To get a deeper stretch, you can pedal out your feet here. So bend one knee, drive that opposite heel down. The more you drive the heel down, the deeper calf and into that Achilles. You may feel this even a little bit deeper into your hamstrings. By bending, you're giving yourself permission to kind of adjust the posture. You good?
Yeah.
Tight?
Shoulders.
Well, we got some more shoulders coming up.
Hooray.
So you're going to move into plank just to lower fully onto your belly here. We're setting up for twisted cross. So left hand can stay planted here. Right arm will go long across the mat. So we're ideally making a right angle with our body. And we're going to roll over that right shoulder. You're fine. You can roll over your shoulder. So you may not see all of Stefan in this shot, but ideally you're getting some sort of sensation in the pec, into the front of your shoulder, down maybe into your bicep area.
Mm-hmm. All of that.
Good. You can tweak this posture a little bit by pointing your toes towards your fingertips, which sounds a little weird. So if the left leg has come over, point your toes. That's flexing. There you go. And think about pointing them back towards your fingertips. Very graceful. You can get a little bit of quad action. If you don't like it, you don't have to do it. That's just an option. You got some quad going on there?
And more biceps somehow.
You're adding a little bit more pressure. That's why.
Balancing
You
on my big toe.
you look very, very graceful. It looks like have fallen very gracefully, kind of like a life alert. You don't have to continue to hold the posture. It's just an option if you want to maybe give yourself a little bit more depth into the posture and then back out. That is something you can do. I like this angle because you can kind of see more of what Stefan's doing here. You can back out if you need to.
Mm.
And you can switch sides. So if you're similar to what we have going on here, there's a little bit of constraint in size. Stefan's scooting over to make more space, but you could always goal post your arm. So if having your arm completely outstretched is not going to work for you just because you're in a confined space. Maybe you're off to the side of the bed, hiding away from your children. You can goal post your arms. So we're just going to roll over that left shoulder. When you're ready, pressing through that right hand. Take a few breaths here to notice how much, if any, if this side is tighter than the other. So this might be like the Goldilocks side where everything feels great. This also might be the side where everything just kind of feels a little like the Tin Man. Maybe you have like the Lego movie song stuck in your head, but instead of everything is awesome, it's everything is awful. You can hear our dog being a little bit of a diva downstairs. If you want that quad stretch, if you like that variation, again, think about pointing your toes. So pointing the toes away from you and then pointing the toes towards your fingertips. That gets you can keep them on the ground. You don't have to lift your leg up. You getting more quad there?
Yep.
Cool.
Kind of weird. There's no quite where to balance.
And that's something that you have to consider is like you have to give yourself a few breaths and multiple chances in a posture to play with it and tweak it and see what feels better in your body. Also with the knowledge, each day is going to feel a little different. Couple more breaths here if you want it. If you don't, we'll start to back out. We're going to start the sequence to get into a standing posture. So hands are going to come in underneath the shoulders. We're going to push back into tabletop, into down dog. Taking a few breaths here. I'd say at least 5 breaths. Just notice how maybe your shoulders are feeling now compared to your first down dog. Your shoulders feeling a little more loose?
Yeah, back feels weird.
We're going to come into a forward fold. So you're going to step your feet towards your hands. They do not have to touch. You can take about 2 fist distance apart. Yep, bend your knees as much as you need to. You need to back out of frame. Yeah.
Time lapse.
Forward fold here. So your knees do not have to be completely locked out. You can keep a nice soft bend in your knees. Let your head hang heavy. We're going essentially for ragdoll here. So if you notice, I'm keeping my knees relatively well bent here. I'm not hyperextending. But that allows me to take a lot of pressure out of my back and just kind of hang out. This is not a comfortable posture for you if you don't feel like you're just hanging out and getting nice and loose. A block can bring the ground closer to you so you can focus more on getting good extension and good stretch through the back side of your body versus just trying to keep your balance. You all right?
Yep.
So we're going to inhale for that halfway lift. We're going to go for gaze about a foot in front of you. One more fold here. And you're going to root to rise. Your head comes up last. Take a nice big full body stretch up overhead. Hands through to heart center. Strong mountain pose here. This is where we're going to get to use the wall. Pull your rib cage down on mountain. So you want to think plugged in. You're hyperextending. So using our half wall, Stefan can do this as a standing posture. I'm going to kind of get back down into the frame a little bit better. If you do not have a half wall, you can relax. If you don't have a half wall, you can do this using a table, a counter, a couch. You may have to take this from a kneeling posture. Now you pivot, and you're essentially going to do puppy dog pose on the wall. No, no, no. Face the wall.
Face the wall.
Hands are going to come onto the railing. And we're going to push your head through just like you would for puppy dog pose. There you go. Just to allow you to come a little bit deeper. So you can do this from a kneeling posture, on a couch, or on a bench. You can do this on your table. We're spending a few breaths here. About 4 to 5, and I'm going to offer one more variation of this posture. I just like this as a good one to, when you're taking a break from work during the day, to grab onto a chair, just do that nice big stretch. Back out of this posture ever so slightly, Stefan, and you're going to change from having your hands flat to coming up on the blades of your hands. So coming pinky side down. Yep, and then push back through. Notice if there is any difference here. Are you getting any difference in posture?
Go a little bit deeper.
There you go. So from here to here allows just your shoulders to move into a different position so you can get a little bit deeper for most people. Everyone's body is a little bit different. It is not the law, it is a generalization. 4 to 5 good breaths here. And then we're going to back out of the wall, back out of this posture. You can come to sitting down. You're going to face the wall here. You're going to take figure 4 on the wall. So if you don't have a wall, you don't have to use one. You can also use the couch or a bench. We're going figure 4. Right ankle stacking on top of the left knee. I'm just doing it from a seated position. Stefan is going to take it. There we go. So if you want to scooch back to really feel your low back, press into that. And you can take, yep. Getting a nice deep stretch here.
Yeah, it's good.
So you can take your right hand and just gently press your right knee out. We're going to be here for a good 15 breath count. This is meant to kind of be more of a chill out posture. If maybe you have hardwoods and you're doing this in your house and this isn't super comfortable, you can always grab a towel or a pillow and put it up underneath your bum just to give you a little bit more cushion. Here is essentially what you're going to feel in a very passive way, what you would get out of pigeon pose, what you would get out of figure 4 on your back. This allows you to effort a little less and still get a decently, I would say a decently intense stretch. Are you feeling a decent stretch here?
Mm-hmm.
Good. So at least 15 breaths. We can take it more. Ideally, we're shooting for about 90 seconds to 2 minutes in this posture. We may not hold that long, just so we can continue to move through the practice. However, this is your practice. You can spend up to 5 minutes in this posture. Your hips might be a little creaky trying to get out of it, but you can spend a good amount of time here. As you need a little bit more oomph, again, think about pressing that right knee away from you. You can also drive that left foot into the wall a little more just to add a little bit deeper of a stretch. This is where if you did set an intention or if you're somebody who's a counter, that's going to be where your focus is right now. If you start to notice yourself drifting or focusing on anything beyond your practice, that's fine. It happens. Give yourself a few breaths and come back to it just like you would in a WOD. In a workout where you're like, oh my God, that 22-minute one we had the other day, give yourself a couple of breaths, walk away and come back to it. You walked away from your intention, your thought, your practice, whatever it is mentally, give yourself a few breaths and come back to it. Give yourself just a few more minutes, a few more moments here. We're not going for a few more minutes unless you want it. Steph and I, just for the sake of moving through this practice, we're going to start moving out of it. Yep. You can help move your body with your hands. Bring your knees into your chest and give yourself a hug here. Feeling all right?
Yeah.
Give you a second to grab a happy baby if you want to. So pull the knees in toward armpits. Peace sign fingers can lift your big toes. Hands can reach outside edges of your feet or inside edges of your feet, whatever your personal preference is. You want to allow your upper back to relax down. And we're going to go for that figure 4 on the left side. So right foot will plant on the wall. So if you notice how Stefan came into this side, because I think your left side's a little bit bigger, your right has the pinch though, right?
Yes.
Right has the pinch, the left is tighter, which is weird. He slid his right foot up along the wall so he could get into position before sliding it back down to make it more comfortable. Alternate way of getting into the posture. I have a habit of just like essentially sitting on the wall and just rocking into it. That's why it's helpful to have him around. Again, as you need a deeper stretch, you can gently press your left leg, your left knee away from your body. This will help get a little bit more into those hips. I have to vacuum up dog toy fluff tomorrow.
Yeah.
Again, we're going for a good 15 seconds here. 15 breaths here, sorry. More if you need it. The reason why I like a 15 breath count is 5 breaths to help get myself situated. 5 breaths to tweak and deepen the posture if I want it. And then I can, if I want a little longer, I can stay there a little longer. Or if I need to start backing out and being a little bit more graceful with myself, meaning giving myself permission to not be graceful at all, I give myself that 5 breaths to back out. So it's 5 breaths to get into, 5 breaths to settle, 5 breaths to back out. It's just a nice little equation that works pretty well for me. We will be continuing to use the wall for a few more postures. This next one is not a particularly pleasant for a lot of people, but we will be going for frog using the wall. I like to use the wall for frog pose, and I'm going to talk about it first since we're already kind of chilling out here. The reason why I like using frog pose against a wall is it helps me think less about flexing my toes and keeping my feet super active, and it gives me something to actively press against to get deeper into my hip flexors. Because with frog pose, there's a couple of different variations where you can bring your heels together and sit your hips back. Or if you put your knees at a 90-degree angle and then pull your hips back from there. A couple of different variations. It's less about your chest coming down to the ground in a frog pose and more about pushing your hips back to get really deep into that hip flexor, inner thigh area that's normally really tight for 90% of the population. So when Stefan's ready to back out of the posture, he'll back out. I'm going to demo frog pose, and mind you, I'm demoing it cold. So that way Stefan can have a few breaths to just kind of chill. Coming into frog pose. So my feet are going to come against the wall. My knees are bent at a 90-degree angle. I'm not super low here. I'm more pressing my hips back versus trying to sink down. By giving my feet something to press against here, it helps me just deepen the posture ever so slightly. However, if that's not a comfortable position for you, you can always bring your feet together and push your hips back that way, closer to what you would do for like an extended child's pose. So let's give frog a shot. This is a place where blocks and bolsters. You good?
Added my headache a little bit.
I know, side effect of eating dinner. Yeah. So feet are against the wall. You should feel getting a lot in the hips here.
Oh yeah.
So if you need to make this a more chill out posture, you can bring blocks underneath where your forearms would be so the earth's a little closer to you. This is going to be another 15 breath count here. And it's going to take time to get comfortable, which is also a really nice reason to have blocks and bolsters nearby. So that first 5 breaths, as you're easing into the posture, give yourself that support. Bring the earth up to meet you. And as you get comfortable, maybe you went from that higher setting on the blocks or having 2 blocks on stacked on top of each other, or a few of the Harry Potter books, like the later ones. I'm talking Half-Blood Prince and Deathly Hallows and Goblet Fire. Maybe you got a stack of 3. Go 5 breaths on that stack of 3. Move 1 out of the way. Lower down a little more. That way you're giving yourself time to settle into the pose. Time just to make it a little bit deeper. Feeling all right here? If this is one where you're like, you got a lot of, oh, I hate this, you can direct that vitriol to me. That's fine. Your body can do only what it can do. Be gentle with it. Do not break yourself. Did it start raining again while you were walking? No?
No.
Hopefully it dries out this weekend. Once you start coming up on that 15 breath count, if you want longer, give yourself permission to stay here a little longer. If you want to start backing out of it, there's genuinely no graceful way to get out of frog pose. You can shift your hips forward and essentially just allow yourself to belly flop. I've seen very few people get out of frog in a graceful way where I felt like it almost looks scripted or choreographed. 90% of even the teachers that I was taught by said no easy way to get out of it. You just essentially belly flop forward. And that's where we're going to be moving to laying on our backs and throwing our legs up against the wall. Yeah.
Oh, go and do that now.
Yeah, you can back out. I mean, unless this feels amazing for you. Ah, Stefan used his pants. He just pulled his leg in. Way to get inventive.
I don't like rug burn. What am I doing?
Your legs are going up a wall.
Oh,
So
great.
you can grab, you want me to grab you a block or a bolster to lift your hips a little?
Oh.
So this is also called waterfall pose here. This is the entire purpose is just to allow you to chill out. And you're going to spend 15 breaths here. Just breathing and allowing yourself to sink into the posture. There shouldn't be a whole lot of like extra stretchy sensation going on. This should be more of like a chill, relaxed, settling sensation. So are you getting a whole lot of stretchy anything? Good. That's not the purpose of this one. This one is meant genuinely for you to chill out. If you feel like you need to stretch something, a way to get into your calves in this posture is by pulling your toes towards your face. You're flexing your toes towards your face. It just gives a little more activation in the posture and honestly allows you to get a stretch in your calves. You got something in your calves now?
Mm-hmm.
There you go. A way this can be duplicated if you don't want to be so active to where you're flexing your toes towards your face. I've used a very heavy blanket or a comforter, just kind of folded up, and I've rested it across the balls of my feet. So it naturally presses down on the balls of my feet, helping out with the stretch. But you don't have to do that. It's just an option. And while you're here, hopefully we're thinking nice dry thoughts. Hopefully those nice dry thoughts and nice dry vibes are going to lead to a beautiful weekend that is not insanely humid, even though there's a high probability it's going to be humid today and tomorrow and the rest of summer. Welcome to the South. But regardless, coming back to whatever you set your intention to be today. Shut up, Stefan. I always offer laughter, grace, patience, because those are all things I like to try and cultivate a little more in my life. I always feel like we can do with a little more laughter. And like that good, genuine belly laughter that almost leaves tears in that will leave tears in your eyes and leaves your ribs hurting. And that good, like friend laughter where you are on a Zoom call with a good friend of yours or Facebook chat or whatever we're doing to keep in contact. FaceTiming, I don't have an iPhone, so I don't FaceTime. But anything that has lent to really good belly laughter today, that's what I want you to think about. If you feel yourself kind of scattering around, come back to whatever has just started making you laugh. For us, we started watching Somebody Feed Phil season 3 on Netflix, and it's hilarious. In this posture, to give yourself a little bit more of a stretch, you can allow your feet to drop to the side, taking a bit more of a V shape. If this is not something that's pleasant for you, because you're going to get a lot of stretch on that inner thigh, you don't have to do it, but this is something that we can make a pit stop of. If you want to spend 10 breaths here, cool. If you want to spend 20 to 30, go for it. This is just a way to help switch up that posture before we move into our resting pose for the day. And your resting pose, just to kind of run down that gambit again, because I think we did that last Friday. You can keep your legs at the wall, and that's your resting pose for the day. You can come to laying on your back. You can use that block or bolster to lift your chest, your hips, maybe your chest and your hips, to put it underneath your knees to give you some support. You feeling good here? You feeling chilled out?
Mhm.
Good. When you find yourself coming up on that maybe final breath count to where you're feeling you're ready to break this posture, you can use your hands to help guide your knees in towards each other. Or you can just bring your feet together on their own. I tend to like to help guide myself. Yeah, like that. You can bring your knees into your chest, give yourself that hug. Maybe go happy baby if you want it. And take a few moments to set up for whatever your resting posture is going to be. So if you are really tight in the chest, maybe you grab that block, pop it long ways between your shoulder blades and go for a supported fish pose where you're allowing your shoulders to relax down over the block, chest is elevated. You can take whatever resting posture you want to take.
Laughter.
I would flip it on the smaller setting. Yeah. So especially if your chest is feeling really tight from Murph, maybe going for that supported fish pose is really what your body needs today, just to help open up the chest. You can put a block underneath your hips, down to your knees. You can elevate your feet. I've definitely done that in classes before where most of my body has been supported by a block, bolster, or a towel because it was what was comfortable for me. And as you're sitting here and as you're getting yourself a little bit more relaxed, we're going to start with the idea of a nice warmth dropping onto the crown of your head. It's like you just stepped into a nice hot shower, and allow that warmth to run down the sides of your face, easing any tension in your jaw and around your eyes. Allow that warmth to travel into your shoulders and chest, easing any tension you're holding, down your back, releasing all tightness that you might feel from the workday, into your hips from sitting, releasing any tension there, down your legs and pooling at the bottom of your feet until you just feel your entire body warm. Allow your edges to become a little less defined here. So where you end and the universe begins, that line is starting to blur with each breath. Each inhale pulling in nice, warm, filling air or energy, going a little more esoteric here. Each exhale helping to release whatever has stopped serving you today. Or if maybe you've let go of everything you can, you're not holding any grudges that you've let go of any grudges you really can. If you can't let it go, using that breath to soothe whatever may be. So whatever's left, and maybe you couldn't let it go, let your breathing to soothe it and smooth out those rough edges to just let it be. Turning it from that jagged rock into smooth river stone. I'd like you to stay here for another 5 to 10 breaths. If you're not counting, great. You don't have to count here. Just allow your thoughts to be fuzzy, everything warm, a little less defined. When you're ready, and only when you're ready, you can wiggle your fingers and wiggle your toes to get ready to break your practice. I'm going to let you stay and relax here. I'm going to end the stream by bringing my hands together at my forehead for kind thoughts, my mouth for kind words, and my heart for good intentions. Thank you guys for letting me guide you. I'm not awkwardly getting you the computer again because there's no really good way to do this. Thanks, guys.